Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and ahead of Gameweek 13, I've made a team that I really like. I wanted to try and build a team that I think we should all be trying to build right now, aiming for trying to get our team towards this team, whether you're on a wild card or just using your transfers. This is the kind of team I think we should all be targeting to build over the next few game weeks. Looking forward to sharing it with you guys. Make sure you drop a like if you do enjoy this one. Do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's see this team. So, this team is actually really quite cheap, and there are a couple of changes or improvements and upgrades you can make to it, but it's actually a really nice baseline that I think everyone is going to be able to afford. So, let's go through it very quickly, guys. Starting off in goal, we're going to go for Sanchez, the Chelsea goalkeeper. I know the next couple of fixtures don't look amazing on paper, but Chelsea are still putting up some of the best defensive numbers in the entire Premier League, and when we're looking for a goalkeeper, we are looking for a player who is a long-term pick, and Newcastle are struggling a little bit in the short term. Brighton are also struggling. Man United are also struggling as well. So actually, it might be a good time to have these bad fixtures and get them out of the way for Chelsea, because at a time where these teams are kind of struggling a little bit, after that, the fixtures look amazing. We've got Everton, Sheffield United, Wolves, Crystal Palace, and they keep getting better from there. So long term, I think Sanchez could be a really nice goalkeeper pick at 4.6 million. Really kind of like this one, actually, guys. In defense, we're going to go for Saliba as the first defender. I think Gabriel is just as useful, but I think Saliba gives you a little bit more assurance of nailedness, of safety, that he is going to play every game over a busy fixture schedule. So definitely an interesting pick. Brentford up next is not the ideal fixture, but Arsenal again, another team that the fixtures just get better from then on. So really looking forward to some really nice fixtures, hopefully some more clean sheets from Arsenal, because they are keeping things fairly defensively tight at the moment. Saliba typically does quite well for baseline bonus points as well, so I don't think he's going to get too many attacking returns. The goal against Burnley was a bit of a poor defensive gift to him, but moving forward, you know, we're going to be looking for bonus points and clean sheets, and I think he can provide that as well as that nailedness. He is getting a little bit more expensive, guys, though, so make sure you hop on him before he goes through the roof in terms of price. Next up, we've got a Kanji, 4.9 million at the moment, so pretty cheap right now. Would you play him against Liverpool? I think I probably would. I trust Man City's defense pretty much against anyone, to be honest. They can keep a clean sheet in any game, can't they? So I'll be very keen to go for him for this Liverpool game, and pretty much for any game, to be honest. If he plays when John Stones is out, I think he's going to be really, really useful as an FPL pick. So yeah, Akanji goes in here as well. I think it's just 4.9 million is just a really good price for a Manchester City defender right now. So a nice little differential that you could potentially go for there in your FPL teams. And we're going to finish off the defense with Harry Maguire. Spoke about him in my differentials video. Really not so bad fixtures for Manchester United, but they're grinding out results, and they're grinding out results with clean sheets. So Harry Maguire is going to be a big important part of that. So he makes the team as well. Moving on into midfield, we're going to start off with Salah. Obviously, he's going to be in every single FPL team right now. Really nice to see, actually, last game week, a bit more classic Salah in terms of how he played in that game. He looked really, really sharp in those kind of moments in that game against Brentford. So up against Man City next, it's not the best fixture, but after that, the fixtures, once again, are really good. We've got Fulham, Sheffield United. You just know that Salah is kind of start scoring some big FPL points during those kind of game weeks, don't you? So at 13 million, I would say he is an essential player, a must-have in your team. After that, we've got this slot, which I'm not entirely sure about. I've got Saka in this team, but this could equally be Son. Particularly because this team is quite cheap. You can afford to change Saka up to a Son if you wanted to and spend that extra bit of money. I'm not sure which one I prefer out of the two at the moment, but I would, for me personally, I would be choosing between Saka and Son in your FPL teams right now in the second most expensive midfielder slot, I guess, in your team. Saka obviously has the fixtures. You would say Arsenal are maybe looking more positive at the moment when you compare them to Spurs, who are maybe in a downward trajectory after all of their injury problems potentially there. Saka, you've got penalties there as well, and I know he hasn't quite had the form, but is Son going to be able to perform without Maddison? I don't know. I think it's a bit of a toss-up, to be honest, who I would prefer out of Saka and Son. If you already have Saka, stick with Saka. If you already have Son, stick with Son, but I would have one of them, at least. Our next spot is going to go to Jarrod Bowen. Now, I think he is a player who I'd be more keen to include in my team, to be honest. We've got Burnley up next. We've got Crystal Palace after that. Spurs, who, you know, I think there could be some points to be gained in that game. Fulham after that, then Wolves. we've got some good fixtures coming up for Bowen, and he's still the star of the show at West Ham, playing as a striker a lot of the times. We've got a bit of an out of position midfielder playing in the attack kind of positions, which is always very nice. West Ham still scoring a lot of goals, despite the fact that they can't defend very well, but that's all we care about when we're going for our attacking players. We want to get those players who are going to score goals and get us points, don't we? So Bowen makes the team as well. Next up, Brian and Mbumo. Difficult fixture against Arsenal, but after that, man, it is amazing. Luton, Brighton, Sheffield United and Aston Villa, the next 4 fixtures after Arsenal. I would just get Mbumo in as soon as possible. I think if you don't have him already, you can wait 1 more week, but after that, he becomes pretty much essential all the way until his blank game week. I wouldn't care that you have to bring him in and then potentially take him back out again when he has a blank game week. I wouldn't care about that. I would do it anyway. Just get him in your team for the following game week. Game week 14 onwards. We're going to need to have a Brian Mbumo in our team. You know, even against Arsenal, you never know. You could pick up a cheeky penalty or something like that, or a nice counter-attack goal. These things happen, and when you pick the best players in the best form, it doesn't really matter what their opponent is. They will do the business. And we're going to finish off this midfield with Cole Palmer, who is obviously doing brilliantly. Another player on penalty. So we've got a lot of penalty takers in this FPL team. We all know that. The fixtures are going to slowly get better and better and better for Chelsea, and Palmer's going to get even more opportunities. Even if you take away the penalties, I think Palmer's still looking really, really good, taking shots, getting in dangerous positions, creating for his teammates as well. I think he could do really, really well and might become an essential player. At 5.2 million, it's just such a cheap price, isn't it? So Palmer's going to be very essential very soon. And against Newcastle, who are maybe showing some fragilities recently with their loads of fixtures and injuries, maybe it's a good time to target them as well with a Cole Palmer. So no problem with going for him in Game Week 13. But if not, maybe wait till Game Week 14. Another player who I would like to have, but I don't think it's essential to own this game week, but you should be building towards something like this. And this midfield, with kind of the only change I would make would be either Saka or Son. Pick one of those two. This would be my perfect dream midfield right now to go for. But we do need to complete this team with some forwards. And we're going to have Erling Haaland in this team, of course. You've got to have him in your team, guys. Liverpool up next. Again, not a perfect fixture. But after that, the fixtures do look really, really good. We've got Spurs at home. Aston Villa, who we know like to concede a goal. Luton after that. Crystal Palace after that. And we're probably going to get a double game week after the blank as well for Man City, as well as for Brentford. So Haaland is definitely going to be a player who we want to own for long periods of time. He's going to be captainable in a lot of these games, including this game week, to be fair. So, yeah, a player that I would thoroughly recommend, if you don't have him already, to think about how you're going to get him back into your team. Because particularly when De Bruyne gets back into the Man City team, which is going to be soon. He's progressing quite well, apparently. Haaland, it's going to be Haaland time. It really is. It's going to be madness, and he's going to keep destroying it as we know he can. And we're going to finish off this team with Darwin Núñez. I think this is another kind of negotiable kind of pick in the team. I think Darwin is probably the least essential, the least convincing player out of the attackers. I mean, for the defenders, to me, no one is convincing me in defence right now, so you may as well pick some fairly cheap players from fairly good teams, I guess. But in terms of attackers, after Haaland, you know, it's anyone's game. You can go for Julian Alvarez, you can go for Ollie Watkins. We're going to have Nkunku coming back into the Chelsea team very shortly when Wilson is fit and Isak are fit. These players are going to be very useful for Newcastle. So there's different ways you can go in attack. You can even go cheaper and differential and maybe upgrade other areas of your team. Maybe upgrade a defender to Trippier, for example. But I think Darwin is a player I like at the moment. After the Man City game, the fixtures are very good for Liverpool, as we know. And I think he is the main man, the main striker at Liverpool right now, who has really impressed recently. So yeah, he's going to make this kind of dream Game Week 13 and beyond team for me. On the bench, guys, we've got Strakosha, nice 3.9 million goalkeeper. We've got 2 defenders here, coming in at fairly cheap prices, actually. We've got Eric Dyer, who is going to be nailed on for the next 3 months, really, whilst Van der Ven is out. As soon as Romero's back in a couple of weeks as well, playing alongside Dyer, I think we will see an improvement in the Spurs defence once again. So he's going to be a player you maybe bench for the next 2 game weeks, and then after that, you can start thinking about playing him. And at 4.2 million, serious bargain to be had there. We've got Mykolenko there at 4.4 million as well. Definitely going to be useful in certain points. Everton really improving in defence. And I've got Osler as a 4.3 million bench forward there. You can just leave on your bench. Of course, if you want to upgrade to someone like Archer or Semenyo, I think that is absolutely fine as well. But I think you've probably got things fairly covered with a Dyer and a Mykolenko on your bench there, to be fair. So, yeah, like I say, defence is a bit tragic. I don't really know where to go in terms of defenders right now. I pretty much would recommend to you guys, outside of maybe Saliba, Gabriel, I mean, you could arguably say Tsimikas as well, but you know, opinions are changing on Tsimikas so fast, I don't know what to make of him really. It's anyone's guess who's going to be the best scoring defenders, so I wouldn't worry about defenders so much. For this team, I've just chosen some fairly cheap players, as well as Saliba and Akanji, who I think is very good value for money for a Man City defender there at 4.9 million. So that's kind of the way I would be looking. Just don't put too much stress on yourself when picking those defenders for FPL. But the midfield, I think this is pretty much set. Saka or Son, something like that. It's going to look really, really good. In terms of captaincy as well on this team, guys, for Game Week 13, I would probably go for Haaland against Liverpool with Salah, the vice-captain, against Man City. We'll see what happens there. You can maybe put a shout in there for Bowen, vice-captain, I guess, as well. He would be a pretty decent shout. But, yeah, in general, we're going to go for Haaland, captain, and this is what the team looks like. I think it looks pretty good. Let me share with you how it looks in future game weeks. Okay, guys, so we are on the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool. If you want to check this out absolutely for free, you can check it out in the link in the description. So go check that out if you would like to do that. Really good, useful tool for planning your team as well as getting predicted points on various players. We can see that actually the AI believes that we should actually be playing Dyer and Mykolenko ahead of Maguire and Saliba, which is super, super interesting. I wonder how that one's going to play out. They've got the slightly higher predicted AI points for this game week. Not really sure what to make of that, guys, to be honest, but hey, it could work out. So, yeah, this is the recommended lineup, I guess, for Game Week 13, and it looks pretty decent. So after that, we move to Game Week 14. You will probably bring in Mykolenko against Forest. Maguire would come out because he plays against Newcastle away. That's a tough fixture, but we like that Forest game for Everton, don't we? So that would work out that way. Probably keeping the captain's armband on Haaland for that Spurs game just before they do get Romero back in their team. You could also make an argument for Captain Salah against Fulham as well. It's going to be an interesting game week with lots of really good fixtures actually for various teams. I think game week 14 could be quite a high-scoring game week, to be fair. Next up, we've got game week 15. Again, it is recommended you captain Haaland against Aston Villa with their high line. That could work out well. But we've also got Salah against Sheffield United, so another decision to be made there. It's going to run and run. Saka against Luton, Saliba against Luton there as well. Going to be pretty interesting, I guess. At this point, you know, could you maybe think about making some changes to this team? Possibly. Going to be kind of up to you. But I think this team is strong enough that it's pretty much good in every single game week. Aside from making like boring defensive transfers, this team pretty much runs and runs, just switching out the defenders for each game week. By going for several cheap defenders, you're able to do that. Game week 16 looks a little bit like this. I'll take you through to game week 18 as well. This will be game week 17. In game week 18, you are going to have those blanks, but maybe Oscilla is the one problem in Game Week 18, but you would kind of hope by this point you're maybe making at least one transfer that maybe solves your situation. I mean, maybe by this point you can switch out at Akanji or take out Mbumo for 1 week or something like that, just to fix your team for Game Week 18, because it is going to be difficult when you have got, you know, you're going to have Erling Haaland in your team. You're going to want to have Mbumo in your team as well. These players are players you're going to have to deal with in Game Week 18 kind of no matter what, because they're players I would not want to miss out on at all. Akanji would maybe be the sacrifice, the player you could sacrifice, either sacrifice in Game Week 13 or, you know, don't buy them at all, or, you know, buy them now and transfer them back out for Game Week 18. Maybe look for a defender. Let's have a look at a defender with kind of a decent fixture for this game. We'll go like maybe 5.5 million or less. Who has like a good fixture, like Pedro Porro against Everton at home could be interesting. We've got Matty Cash against Sheffield United at home, potentially there as well you could think about. So there are a few players still. Of course, the Newcastle defenders, they play against Luton in that game week. So, you know, you could maybe even do that if you don't fancy Akanji. Coming back to Game Week 13, we could just remove Akanji and replace him with Fabian Schär, potentially there. Maybe that's going to work out. The next couple of fixtures aren't amazing, but I do worry about Newcastle a little bit defensively at the moment, but maybe by that point things might look a little bit better for them, particularly when Botman is back, which should be within the next few weeks, actually. So maybe Fabian Schär works here as well. Like I said, you can also switch out Saka, bring in Son here, for example, if you wanted to bring in Son. If you don't like Darwin, you can go for a Ollie Watkins in here, and you can still see that this team is probably going to be affordable for a lot of people still, even with those upgrades to it. So yeah, play around with this team. There's definitely some options, a couple of players that you can potentially switch around to still make sure this team is a fabulous, fabulous team. So yeah, let me know what you think. I like this team. I like this kind of structure. I think the defense is the real big talking point because it's so difficult to pick out defenders right now. But I think midfield is pretty much set, and there's one space to go differential for your forward, your second forward position, I guess. Thanks so much for watching this video today, guys. If you did enjoy it, make sure you drop a like. Do subscribe if you are new around here as well. We've got plenty more content to come over the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that. We're going to be back on the grind. But yeah, aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching once again. Check out the differentials video that I uploaded the other day as well if you wanted to. Really enjoyed making that. Aside from that, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mate.